November 16, 1951. A cold morning fog drifts over Portsmouth Harbor. Captain Dennis Campbell steps onto the deck of HMS Illustrious, a large Royal Navy carrier resting quietly in the water. Under his arm, he carries a simple folder. Inside, a single sheet of paper. On that paper, a strange sketch of a flight deck tilted about 10 degrees to the left. At first glance, it looks like nothing, just a line drawn slightly off-center. But that small, almost ridiculous idea will soon change the future of naval aviation and save more pilots than any weapon ever built. In the early 1950s, landing on an aircraft carrier was one of the most dangerous things a pilot could do. In 1951 alone, the Royal Navy lost 43 aircraft and 17 pilots, not in combat, but in landing accidents. Each crash happened in the final seconds of a flight, when a 30-ton jet tried to grab one of the arresting wires stretched across the carrier's deck. If the plane missed those wires, there was no second chance. Straight ahead waited a steel barricade designed to stop the aircraft before it plowed into other parked planes. But those barricades often failed, turning a single mistake into a deadly fireball. The U.S. Navy faced the same nightmare. More than 700 American pilots had been killed in carrier accidents during peacetime. For everyone who made it home, others died in training or routine landings. The reason was simple: jet engines. Jet planes were faster, heavier, and slower to respond than propeller aircraft. When a jet pilot added power, the engine took several seconds to spool up, far too long during a failed landing. If a pilot missed the wires, there was no second chance. Straight ahead waited a steel barricade, designed to stop the aircraft before it plowed into other parked planes. But those barricades often failed, turning a single mistake into a deadly fireball. Carrier aviation was reaching its breaking point. Everyone knew jets were the future, but carriers were still built for World War II propeller planes. The British tried flexible rubber decks, hoping planes could bounce safely onto them. The Americans built stronger barriers. The French experimented with lighter aircraft. None of it worked. Pilots kept dying. Then one man asked a question no one else dared to ask. Why does the landing deck have to be straight? That man was Captain Dennis Campbell. Campbell was not an engineer. He was a career officer, disciplined, serious, and quiet. But he couldn't ignore what he was seeing. He had attended too many funerals. One day, he buried a young test pilot, just 23 years old, who died after missing the wires by a few feet. The barricade failed. The plane exploded. The pilot's wife was 5 months pregnant. He called it madness. He studied reports, interviewed pilots, and began sketching ideas in his notebook. One day, on a train from Portsmouth to London, the thought came to him: if you can't make the deck longer, maybe you can make it angled. What if the landing area wasn't straight down the middle of the ship, but turned slightly to the left? That way, if a plane missed the wires, it wouldn't crash into the barricade. It could simply add power, lift off, and fly away safely. No explosions, no deaths. Just a second chance. When Campbell presented his sketch to senior officers, they laughed. "It's illegal," one said. "All flight operations must align with the ship's axis." Another claimed it would make landings harder. "The ship rolls and pitches. If you angle the deck, pilots will lose balance." But one man, a brilliant engineer named Louis Boddington, spoke up. "Show me the data," he said. No one could. So Boddington suggested a test. They didn't need to rebuild a carrier. They simply painted an angled line across the deck of HMS Triumph, about 10 degrees to port. Pilots were told to approach and land as if the painted line were the real landing path. For 3 weeks they tested it, and something incredible happened. Pilots adapted almost instantly. There were no extra crashes. In fact, pilots said the angled line made them feel safer. One wrote in his report, "I missed the wires, added full power and climbed away. For the first time, I wasn't terrified. I felt like I'd been given my life back." Campbell's idea worked. Now the challenge was to convince the Americans. In September 1951, at the U.S. Naval Air Test Center in Patuxent River, Maryland, a British test pilot named Eric Brown presented the same idea. Brown had landed on more aircraft types than anyone in history. When he explained the angled deck, the American officers in the room laughed too. But Brown had tested it himself. He knew it worked. When you miss the wires on an angled deck, you don't die, you just go around. The Americans were skeptical, but they agreed to try it. They painted an angled deck on USS Midway and ran simulated landings. It worked perfectly. Next came real trials, this time with steel and cable.
In 1952, engineers modified an American carrier to include a true angled landing deck. It wasn't just paint anymore. It was real metal, tilted to the left side of the ship. On January 12, 1953, near Guantanamo Bay, Lieutenant Commander Harold Buell became the first pilot to land on it. He was flying an F-9F Panther jet. During his first approach, a gust of wind lifted his plane too high. He missed all the wires, a certain crash on a straight deck. But on the angled deck, he simply added power, climbed away, and circled for another try. On his second pass, he caught the wire perfectly. After landing, he described it in one word: freedom. The results were stunning. Landing accidents dropped almost immediately. For the first time, a missed wire, called a bolter, was no longer deadly. Pilots could try again safely. The numbers spoke for themselves. Within a few years, both the U.S. and Royal Navies saw massive reductions in fatal crashes. What used to be one of the most dangerous maneuvers in aviation became a routine part of every flight. Other nations quickly followed. France, Australia, and eventually even the Soviet Union adopted angled decks on their carriers too. The change spread around the world, quietly but completely. Behind every number, there were real people. Captain Bruce Williams watched 11 men die in a single barrier crash before his ship was refitted with an angled deck. After the change, his squadron didn't lose a single pilot in landing accidents. Lieutenant James Davidson once returned to his carrier with a damaged jet and no flaps. On a straight deck, he would have been doomed. On an angled deck, he made several safe approaches and finally caught the wire at 142 knots, the fastest safe carrier landing in history at that time. He lived and wrote a thank you letter to Campbell himself. Dennis Campbell never sought fame. He wasn't a man of the spotlight. He was promoted to Rear Admiral in 1954 and quietly continued his work. When journalists asked about the angled deck, he always gave credit to the engineers and pilots who proved it worked. He rarely spoke of himself. He attended many funerals for men lost before the idea was accepted. To him, those memories mattered more than medals. He received honors, including the commander of the British Empire, but he kept his medals tucked away, out of sight. History often remembers inventors and scientists, but sometimes a revolution begins with a simple sketch drawn by a man who refused to stay silent. Dennis Campbell wasn't an engineer. He was just a naval officer who saw a problem that cost too many lives and decided to fix it. His small drawing, made on a train one day in 1951, became the foundation of modern naval aviation. Every carrier in the world today, American, British, French, Russian, and more, still uses his angled deck design. Every time a pilot misses the wires and safely powers away, they owe their life to that one idea. Over 70 years later, the angled flight deck remains one of the most important innovations in aviation history. It turned a deadly landing trap into a safe and repeatable maneuver. It made carrier aviation not just possible, but reliable. And it all began with a simple question. What if the deck wasn't straight?